Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. We're going to get started today on training around GSA's contracting teaming agreement, and we'll talk more about that in a second. But I'm excited. I'll bring Andy on, our guest. Before we do, I just want to quickly provide a tip for success for those showing up early and on time. And this is a tip I've done before, but I want to make sure that I'm reminding you of this. In LinkedIn, we have a headline, right? So we have our name, and then right below that is our headline. And I want to encourage you to change your headline to something that defines what you sell. For example, I think my headline, and I should know this since I'm giving you this tip, but I think my headline basically says, I help small businesses succeed in the federal market, right? And so the reason that's important is because when I leave a comment or a thumbs up on other posts around LinkedIn and other people see it, then they go, oh, I should talk to this guy because I'm a small business or I'm in the federal market, blah, blah, blah. And other people go, I'm not interested because I'm not in the federal market, right? You want to make it easy for people to say yes and no to you. You don't want them to not know what you do and then not follow up. That's horrible. And you certainly don't want to get a bunch of people reaching out to you who are just totally unrelated to what you do. So it's not helpful to them or you, right? Take your headline and just really think about it. What do I sell? If I said, this is what I sell, I was trying to look here. Actually, I can't find one in there that's good. So I got to figure that out. But, somebody yesterday talked about I help recruiting or I help you recruit the right talent to staff your organization or something like that. Make it that easy. And then feel free to ping me when you have it. You can send me a direct message on LinkedIn and ask me to just give you a little feedback. I'll be happy to do that. All right. Let me turn off that caption. Let's get rocking and rolling. I'm going to find Andy somewhere backstage, and he's walking up on stage now. It was a quick little, I'm sorry, I put you in the corner yet again. This is not good.
You never learn.
Right. Nobody puts Andy in the corner.
That's right. Well, apparently they do. Apparently Neil does put me in a corner, so that's okay.
I'm telling you, you're back tomorrow for a third time, and I'm hoping, I'll actually have it prepped right. Before I bring you on, let's bring you on the full screen.
There you go.
So I'm excited to have Andy Kirkpatrick here with us from GSA. If you haven't watched previous training, he and I talked yesterday, and the replay is available immediately. We talked yesterday from a high level about GSA's MAS contract vehicle, so their multiple award schedule. You can go watch that and learn more about it. Today, we're going to pick up on that topic around the GSA contract teaming agreement, or CTAs. And I really was looking forward for Andy coming on because as experienced as I am, I don't know a lot about CTAs. And so I'm going to dig into it today with Andy. So Andy, I appreciate you being here. And maybe a good way for us to just start off is, can you let us know a little bit about who you are and what's your role within GSA?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a program analyst for the MAS professional services and human capital area. Basically, that means my job is to increase business volume for the MAS program. And so the way that I do that is I connect dots. I connect dots between GSA and our industry partners, GSA and our agency partners, and also GSA and our internal customer-facing and contracting operations. So essentially, my mission is to make it as easy as possible for government agencies to use the MAS program, which will in turn make you more competitive out in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate it. And a good intro. One thing I would just remind everybody right now, because Andy will say it at the end, is he's got his email right there underneath his on his video. Just write that email down. He's open to you reaching out and asking him questions about GSA, about MAS, about CTA, which we're talking about today. So feel free to reach out to him. He's awesome. So we're going to dig into this, and I appreciate it. I mean, it sounds like I'm paying an extra compliment, but you and I have talked, and I've gotten value from the talk. Yeah, but also if you looked at the chat yesterday, it was great for me to see other people had already reached out to you about their businesses, and they were getting some help from you and understanding GSA, et cetera. So before we go too much further, just let me know in the chat if you're on GSA MAS already. I'm curious on the balance of who we have here. So just put I'm on GSA or I'm not on GSA into the chat, and we'll track on that. Before we get to CTAs, one second, Andy, can you just tell me, just a refresher for this particular training session, what is GSA MAS for the people who might not be familiar with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a multiple award schedule. Really, the best way that I've heard it kind of termed is that it's the Kmart for GSA. It's really the place where you can get just about everything. So it's a benefit for industry out there. To be able to get as many or use as many different sources to get the solution that is necessary. So the MAS program gives you the flexibility and the agility to have the agencies satisfy their most essential requirements.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is that for us businesses, we've already pre-negotiated through GSA, and agencies can trust GSA has gotten good rates.
Well, that's yeah, absolutely. That goes back, right? That goes back to the to the process of being blessed and being awarded a MAS contract or any of the GSA contracts. And so it's the most popular one. It's the biggest one. We're the ones that carry the water as the organization goes, which we like to remind our GSA folks that we're the ones that are keeping the lights on and keeping everything rolling. But it is it's really the key part to this is we give you the ability to go to these agencies and go, look, you don't have to worry about dealing with us because you're blessed. We're blessed by GSA. And so we've gone through all of the processes and we've been we've been blessed, we've been ordained, whatever you'd like to put in there. And so it what it does is it really quickens the process, which is one of the two things that are one of the main three things that agencies are looking for. They're looking for an easy use, they're looking for a shortened procurement time, and they're looking for the best, most efficient solution. Through GSA, they're able to get all three.
No, that's awesome. I love those three, and fortunately, it's on video and recorded, so I have it. But you'll see me shout that out. Those are kind of tweetable moments. No, so that's perfect. So that's GSA, and we've got a good amount of people who are on GSA already. And I like how some people are adding in that there's multiple SINs or multiple contract vehicles. We kind of say. So today's about CTAs. So let's just start with a. In fact, today I think I'm going to ask you just 5, maybe 6 questions, Andy.
Sure.
And spoiler alert, they're going to be who, what, when, why, where, and how.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Right. So we'll play our game through there. But what are CTAs? What are contract teaming agreements?
CTAs are arrangements in which 2 or more GSA, and I'm reading right off the script here to make sure I get it completely right. An arrangement in which 2 or more GSA scheduled contractors team together to provide a total solution to compete for orders which they may not qualify independently. So it's a way of getting involved with it. I also suggest this as if for somebody who's not on GSA necessarily, as a way of really having something viable to talk about when you're trying to kind of gain an insight here. And so this and Neil and I kind of talked about this earlier. This is really in the context of helping network your company, really to define what it is you do. And so, Neil, I was backstage and heard your tip, loved it. And I'll even go a step further in really making sure that that statement is really applicable to the problems that you want to solve. And so always ask that question when you're doing that little blur, the little sentence or two in there. Always ask that hard question of why should anyone care? Why does that matter? Why is that important? Sure, it's great to you. Sure, you have the best people, you have the most wonderful solution, blah, 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 blah. We all do. And so what makes it what makes it special and what makes it provocative for an agency to dig further, because that's ultimately what you want to do.
Well, so you threw the why card down. So let's throw why back and forth here for a second, Andy. So I understand the what, right? So and for everybody else, when I hear, what is a CTA, it really is 2 different companies who have the GSA MAS schedule coming together to work together. And this is a different type of a teaming arrangement, not a teaming agreement. Just to separate this,
Right.
In government contracting, we say, hey, get a teaming agreement in place with another contractor, and together you go after an opportunity. That teaming agreement's not some legal document or anything. It's just an agreement of the work split, what we'll do before the opportunity drops, what we'll do at the RFP, and what we'll do in the award. And then from a teaming agreement, you go to a subcontract.
Right.
This is something a little different called a CTA, where it's a teaming arrangement between two GSA contract holders. And so I wanted to ask you why twice here, Andy, around this is, and you alluded to this a little bit already, but why is the CTA important to, let's start with the government.
Sure.
Why is it important to just using the Army, right? To the
Yeah,
Army
sure.
fire.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, it's the third piece. So it's the third piece of that triad that I mentioned before. It's the most effective, efficient solution possible.
Mhm.
And so what's in it for the government is that it will be a more comprehensive solution because it is utilizing the strengths of multiple companies. And so especially in these very complicated and convoluted procurements, it's very difficult to have a one company that can absolutely fulfill every single aspect that is necessary to take care of this challenge that the government is going through. And so through CTAs, it's more of a democratic process than whereas where it would be a little more centralized of a solution if you just purely went with one organization. So hopefully what's going on here is that we're leveraging strengths in order to provide the most efficient and effective solution for the government.
And I'm going to come back and dig into that from a how perspective.
Sure.
But so that's why from a government's perspective, it hits those. And say those three things for me again.
Yeah, the three things we need, absolutely. It's the most effective and efficient solution, saving time, and what was the third one?
I knew I'd do this to you.
It was saving time, saving money, and getting the best solution.
Yeah, there you go. Okay,
I
just want
to
now, by the
try
way,
to trick me up on that. Put
that in the chat. Somebody else and make sure we have that there, because I want to come back each time. Right, when I think about that, that's really important for us to understand that that's how GSA is communicating out to federal buyers who are their customers.
Mm-hmm. It's
really effective when industry aligns with the customer, and in this case, the channel to that customer, which is GSA. So we're talking about why it's important to or valuable to the agency. Why is it valuable to me as a business?
Oh, because it's your calling card, and so it's wonderful to have, our little one pager, our what we do and how we do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this is an actual living, breathing way of getting in front of folks, and so you can talk until you're blue in the face again about how great you are and how wonderful your people are and all that stuff. This is what makes you viable to the government. Ease of use. So it's really a way of making their job as easy as possible. You have to remember the government contractors on both sides are overworked, underpaid, and underappreciated. And so they are going to look for the quickest, easiest situation or solution rather to this. And so that's what you want to be known as, providing to the government. So I'm going to go to Neil because Neil knows what he's doing and he's got the solution, and I don't have to worry about this. That's key on this. They want to be able to put all their confidence into this solution that they've come up with.
Yeah. I'll dig more into that in the, like, how do I use it or how do I talk to the government about that in a second. But let's talk a little bit about when and where. For example, if I'm a contract holder, when should I be thinking about a CTA, right? When should I be thinking about putting it in place?
Putting it in place, hopefully.
Actually, I should ask you too.
Yeah.
A little bit of how in the early thing. How do I put that in place from a simple, steps or whatever? And then and also maybe you could just drop where we can go find out more about this.
Yeah,
But then
absolutely.
when should I be thinking about putting a CTA in place?
You should always be thinking about putting a CTA in place. Anytime that you have any that should be the purpose behind your niche, your specific area of it. So you should be always out there offering this as a solution, as a discussion point, something provocative that if you get in front of folks who are also in your area
Yeah.
and finding a mutual purpose.
Let me
And
interrupt you 1 second.
yeah, sure.
I like when you say putting it out there, I'm company A and there's company B.
Mhm.
First, I should be trying to build relationships with people who have other GSA MAS
Sure.
and come together and see if we can work together. When you say putting it out there, I'm now kind of putting out, look, you've got access to both of us
Mhm.
through this CTA. Is that how?
Yeah,
Is
but through a prospective CTA, and every CTA is different, and so the CTA is really an agreement between the contracting or the I'm sorry the industry partners is a better term themselves, and so this is something that GSA promotes and encourages our folks to do and to use as a networking tool, as a marketing tool, in there of going, hey, I see, I see you have, you're you're solving this solution or you're working this problem with the government. I have this to offer as kind of as an added bonus. We can come in and bring in a teaming arrangement in there, but again, between the two industry partners. This really doesn't have anything directly to do with GSA. This is just a suggestion for us to have the ability to get in front of people and to really show how great and how wonderful your product or service is.
how familiar is or are government buyers with CTAs?
Not at all, which is why
Okay.
when I saw this come up, I'm like, oh yes,
If you weren't a
this
speaker,
is
you would have
something.
attended.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a tricky process because we're not naive. This is a highly competitive forum that we're dealing into, and there has to be a level of trust and respect and accountability between the industry partners that are doing that. So not to go into risque territory, but you have to be concerned about who you go into bed with. And so it's a very tricky situation. So it's not for every situation, but I love it because it's a way of kind of bringing in that mutual purpose, which is
Yeah.
always what you want to hammer towards. And when you're dealing, so you want to deal with mutual purpose between you and the government. You want to deal between mutual purpose between you and someone who can help get you to that next area. Because again, a lot of the times that it works best is when the two industry partners get together and so they can qualify for an opportunity that they would not necessarily qualify for alone. That's another kind of level of that mutual purpose.
Yeah, one thing is interesting. So this is Kami has a question that I was going to ask anyways, but this idea of because I saw this actually for everybody else when I was doing my prep work with Andy here or for this call with Andy, I was looking at some of the language on CTAs and what people say, and Booz Allen talks about it. So we're talking about a large prime contractor
Sure.
is talking about how it works with teaming partners and uses a CTA. And one of the things, Andy, they said on there, and so I wanted surprise me, but it's something to the tune that you don't have to actually be on the same GSA MAS SIN, I guess, right?
Right.
And you can be on different schedules and bring them together. And if that's
Absolutely.
the case, then I'm seeing a much fuller solution. First, can you verify that?
Yeah,
And then we can
absolutely.
explore that.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if there is that will never be a well, I shouldn't say never, that shouldn't be a detriment to it. So yes, the different ones can do that. Of course, the I think the common line is whenever you ask contracting questions, the answer is It depends.
Depends.
It depends. So that's that's a generic answer, but yes, there are definitely situations where that they can have the they have different sins or different. It again it depends on what the what the
I
context is.
Yeah, sorry. I see it as a. Oh, by the way, really quick in the chat, let me know if you've heard of CTAs before. Just put I've heard of CTAs or I have not heard of CTAs in there so that Andy and I, but Andy's
Yeah.
able to take this back and say, hey, I'm talking to an audience of people who weren't really aware of CTAs. Let us know in the chat. But Andy, while you're talking about CTAs and I'm thinking these different schedules coming together, I'm just thinking of these different standalone contract vehicles. Like one of my customers won a $175 million single award IDIQ. And for what that means, everybody, is that this one company won it. An IDIQ is a contract vehicle, and task orders come out year after year. So $5-10 million sizes on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a lot of task areas.
Okay.
And this will go into tomorrow's contract or discussion about how do we get contracting officers to use our vehicle. But those task areas is what I saw as different mass sins coming together and saying, hey, you don't have to stand up your own vehicle. You could use GSA and we're all vetted already.
Right.
So then you're vetting the scope of the work to a degree and maybe the price, but not the labor categories. Is that where GSA is trying to, advocate the use of that as well? On like trying to compete with those standalone IDIQs?
Yeah, absolutely. Where our main focus is the solution towards there, and so we need to use whatever contracting mechanisms that we can to that point. So yeah, whatever's going to get the best possible solution to the government, that's what GSA is here to facilitate. That's our job, is to facilitate through that. Whatever. This is why we have. Everybody goes, well, you have so many contracts. Why is it so convoluted? That's the reason, because we're trying to, and again, sometimes it's to our detriment that we try to be the everything to everybody. But that's the that's the main focus of it. The main is the solution.
Well,
that's
theoretically your core competency is the contract vehicle, and then you have subordinate contracting capabilities. Let me ask about some of the how. Right? It's like, first off, I know we've talked in previous chats, but for this session, right? How can I use GSA? Like if I'm going after a CTA or I have a CTA in place, et cetera, how can I use GSA personnel for support to have this discussion with the government? Is it all me and just I got to go knock on doors all by myself? Or are there people who interact with contracting officers or buyers that might be able to lend a hand in that discussion around use of the CTA?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. For those who were with us yesterday, we talked a little bit about CSDs and NAMs, customer service directors, and national account managers. So those would be the folks who have the relationship with the agency partners, and yes, the contracting offices in those areas too as well. We also have, through PSHC, we have a contracting operations branch as well. So if there's contracting questions, we can give some free advice and free guidance on that too as well. And for those of you who are GSA partners, you can go to the vendor support center too as well. But I'm glad you brought that up, Neil, because no, you're not alone. Absolutely not. I don't want to break into song, the Michael Jackson song, but you're not alone. And I am by your side. Exactly. And so, yeah, absolutely. That's when you reach out. My stock line, again, I used it yesterday. If you find yourself doing something that you are not being paid to do, that's GSA related, that's when you reach out to andrew.kirkpatrick@gsa.gov.
And if you're looking for that email, look at his face. Right there,
exactly.
next to his name.
Look away from exactly. Much more handsome than the face.
Yeah, yes. Well, and right. Okay, we'll keep it soft. I want to push on that thread though, because I believe small businesses don't understand how much support we have available to us. We're nervous about calling Andy here or So when we talk about the national account, what do you call them? National account?
National account
NAMs.
NAMs, national account
So
managers.
national account managers, these are people for the most part at the agency level. So when you're reaching out to Andy, you can explore that opportunity. The other thing you just said, and I want to take a minute and have you just expand on the acronym. You dropped an acronym that is PSHA or something.
Oh, I'm
no,
sorry.
That's fine. Expand that acronym and then explain what that is, because I've spent a lot of time researching, but most people have not.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. It's professional services and human capital. So that it basically just we are assigned category. I'm sure you've heard category management thrown around a bunch of times. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. It's basically a way of organizing what GSA's industry partners are offering out to our agencies, so that the agencies can find our industry partners quicker. So it's basically a category. So what my job is, as I said at the top, is to increase the business volume in those specific areas. So yes, GSA, fantastic, but I'm graded, I'm evaluated on how the public's the professional services and human capital areas go. And we have about 10 subcategories: business administration, environmental services, consulting, logistics.
These are all under professional services.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And so very easily found both in GSA.gov and also GSA eLibrary too as well. So if you want to go to either of those,
we got 4 minutes left. I'm going to try to throw a question in here as well. But really quick, to Andy's point about the professional services, you can go on there and learn. That's what makes me an expert. Is I go there and I read what Andy and his colleagues are writing in GSA. It's like, hey, industry, follow this guidance, and it's awesome if you go in there. And one thing to expand on it, just in case you don't know, is you want to figure out what you sell to the government through the words that they use. And they use, he said, category management, which we talked about yesterday. It's also known as common goods. So there's 10 common goods and there's 9 defense-specific common goods. Those 19, what I tell small businesses, pick one and dive deep into that. And if you can't pick one, then it's a signal to you that you're not clear and focused enough on there. But when you're clear and focused, then you'll know the Andy to reach out, right? He's willing to talk to any of you on the live today, but he's in the professional services. What if you want to talk to IT or logistics or something? So, okay, so let me ask this last question. We got a few minutes left. I want to ask a question about, when you think about how I might be able to just begin to broach this topic on the CTA, like, I know we said, when do we plant an oak tree 20 years ago and today kind of thing a second ago, but
of course,
should I be looking at a CTA in a normal course of just building my company as a strategy to go find people and say, hey, let's create a CTA and then go find work? Or should I be looking at it where there's an opportunity? I'm like, wow, I wonder if we could do it. Okay, you get where my question is.
The latter. Yep, the latter. The latter is going to get you in front of people. But the agencies aren't going to talk to you about a potential situation or out there. So yeah, absolutely. Start with something that is based in either something they've tried in the past, either a solicitation they've tried in the past, or something that's out currently. Best case scenario is there's a solicitation that's out there now, and then you say, all right, I'm teaming with Neil, and I are teaming to put something together for this current issue that they have.
No, that's perfect.
I'm keeping a close eye on the clock.
I appreciate that. I would have actually thought it was a little earlier. So I like that you're giving the guidance on track that opportunity as we move forward. Just for everybody, my tip for you is you should be looking at the CTA for 2025 as just one more part of your strategic plan. Your plan doesn't have to be this big convoluted thing, but you should go, you know what, I'm going to put a CTA in place. Because literally, and I don't know this for a fact, but literally it's not that big of a lift to get it in place. It's a big lift to do something, but getting on the GSA schedule was the lift. So now go find people you like to work with and have complementary services, inform it. So that's going to be my last word there. I did want to go ahead.
Can we send them? Can we send them the slides I sent you?
Absolutely. Actually, let me do this instead. If you want a copy of the slides that explain CTA that Andy usually uses for briefing, just put slides, please, in the chat, and we'll follow back up with you. Just selfishly, what this does is it engages on LinkedIn. And other people go, hey,
Cool.
what are those slides? But it draws them back to the replay video. So it's all
Yeah.
tactic.
Neil, I'm all about your numbers, baby. All about
Right.
your
Vanity
numbers.
metrics.
Absolutely,
That's what I'm
man.
like.
Of
No, but
course.
it's a great
Of
way to
course,
reach
brother.
more people than you and I will even know we're
Absolutely.
reaching. So, and then I can attach the
Great.
slide deck later. Hey, last thing.
Right.
So we're on the end of our time, and I'll put you back in the backstage in a second. But how can people reach you or reach out to you besides your email? Are you okay with them connecting on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was about 10 folks yesterday reached out and connected with me. Yeah, LinkedIn's the best. I'm Andy Kirkpatrick. Yeah, I don't think there's any challenge in trying to find me out there. So yeah, I'm pretty easily found.
Yeah, that's perfect. I appreciate, Andy, that you came along. Just letting everybody know, definitely follow back up with Andy if you got questions frankly, about GSA or CTAs, and he'll guide you off to the proper place. And then definitely throw a thank you into the chat to Andy for joining us. I appreciate you investing the time today with us. I know we're helping GSA,
My
but
pleasure.
you making yourself available is awesome.
My pleasure. My folks have always told me, "Hey, gotta talk to Neil. You gotta talk to Neil." So I'm so happy that it came to fruition. So
I
very
appreciate
psyched.
that. Okay, so hey, we're gonna wrap up. Just remember that government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I will see you in the next training. By the way, the next training is tomorrow with Andy, and we're talking about how can you get contracting officers to use your GSA schedule. So we'll come back to that. Andy, I'm gonna put you in the in timeout. Right.
You got it. Take